Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Ava, and I am the Impact Marketing and Regenerative Community Manager at Kripalu. And we are going live today with the one and only Dani Shapiro. So I am going to grab Dani. I'm so excited. Hi, everyone. Welcome in. Let's see. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Hey, Dani.
Hey, Ava.
It's so good to see you.
It's great to see you too. It's great to be here.
Yes, what a day. I've got election day and Dani Shapiro on the same day.
Too much. Wait, I'm going to raise the volume here a little bit.
Yeah, I'll check mine as well. Perfect.
Hmm.
Perfect.
Should be louder.
Let's see. Sound good?
You sound, I mean, I can hear you, but you sound a little faint to me. I don't know if it
Okay,
sounds faint to other people.
let me get the volume up. How does it sound now? Better?
It sounds okay.
Okay, okay. It
Yeah.
actually sounds a lot better to me too, so I think it might have been a bit low.
Okay.
So, hello. Good to see you.
Good to
Where
see
are
you.
you where are you today?
I'm home in New England. And are you in New York?
I'm heading up on a train in a couple hours. Yeah, so I'm
Okay.
gonna just hit the poll booth. I've been doing a bit of traveling this year, so but I'm hitting the city so I can get my ballot in. So I'm
Yeah.
excited about
Yeah.
that.
For sure.
Good. Well, thank you so much for making some time. We're so honored to have you at Kripalu. I know this is one of your only on-campus events, if not your only, sort of large group event for the whole year. So we are
Yes.
very, very honored to have that, to be able to hold that honor. So thank you so much for your time. And I'm just looking forward to asking you some wonderful questions today and
Of
sharing more about your work with our
Of
audience.
course, no, and I have to say, it's been such a gift in my life, this one large annual retreat at Kripalu. It's why I keep it to that and don't spread myself around more because it just feels so exactly right and has for a long time, and it's just
Mm.
grown and grown and gotten more and more special. So
Well,
it's
we
my
can
honor too.
we can start with that question then. What do you love most about Kripalu?
Oh gosh. Um, I mean, Kripalu is such a unique place. It's, and to be able to lead the kind of retreat that I lead there, where I really couldn't do this kind of teaching, I don't think almost anywhere else where it just folds in with meditation and people can go in the afternoon and take yoga and just be in that space. I mean, I always lead this usually on the Saturday afternoon, a silent walking meditation.
Mm.
And, people doing silent walking meditation look like, sort of walking zombies. You can't just do that anywhere. And I'll say to them, this is something that, is such a sacred and safe space to be able to just be and sort of settle into where you are, which in terms of um, what we get on the page and the writing life, it requires so much quiet and quieting the noise. And we're living in such a noisy world and so full of distraction and so full of just kind of nonstop reactivity. And so to get to teach people in this place where they're getting time out of time for a couple of days, we're not
Mm.
just dropping in for an hour. Really, we really go deep, and I get to watch that happen over the course of a weekend.
Yeah, beautifully said. They're getting time out of time, and the R&R activities that surround your program. So they're in this beautiful, rich container with you and the work, and like you said, the writing life, and then the grounds and the yoga and the meditation and all of the other, just the support that's sort of around to help you get quiet and help you create. I find so many people are able to just really tap into a deeper level of their creativity when they're on campus that they don't expect. um, and I thought it is quite funny about the walking, meditation, because yeah, in any other environment they'd be like, who are these strange people?
Yeah,
But
Yeah.
Kripalu, weird is good. Weird is good at Kripalu. We're used to the weird.
Yeah, I mean, when the very first time I went to, I always tell this story on the opening night of my program because I'll ask for a show of hands and I'll ask how many people are at Kripalu for the first time, and it's really a huge number at my program. It's usually
Mhm.
something like 60 or 70% of the people in the room who have
Right.
not been to Kripalu before, and then I tell the story of the first time that I went to Kripalu. Um, I had, a young kid at home. I had not taken any time for myself, just for myself. And this wasn't connected to writing when I did it. I was certainly working on a book, but I went to a yoga and meditation retreat that was led by Stephen Cope and Sylvia Boorstein. It actually was a life-changing experience for me, not in the way that I thought it would be. Sylvia became one of my dearest friends and is to this day, and that began that weekend. But when I first arrived, I I just thought I was so out of practice being anywhere um, new and different and not necessarily exactly in my comfort zone. And I
Mhm.
called my husband and I said, I don't know about this. Everybody's wearing Birkenstocks and yoga clothes, and I don't know about, I just feel I'm not sure if I belong. It's very sort of middle school lunchroom cafeteria feeling. And my husband had been a foreign correspondent for many years. And he said, I know just how you feel, honey, when I used to, when I would land in Rwanda. And I just stopped and I was like, okay, Danny, get over yourself. You're in Stockbridge, Massachusetts, and and it was such a great moment. And if I could have looked at a crystal ball that day, this would have been like 2008 maybe or
Mhm.
so,
Mhm.
and imagined that not only would I come back to Kripalu, but I would come back and be leading this retreat that's just gotten richer and deeper and larger every year, and that I would be up there on that, in that space where Stephen and Sylvia were sitting, that it would be me sitting there and leading um, these beautiful gatherings. It's so amazing.
Oh, I just have goosebumps listening to you share that, and what you said about life changing, but not in the way that I thought it would be. Really,
Yeah,
really struck me. I mean, so many things that you write and communicate strike me. I think that's one of the beautiful gifts that you have, just like getting to the like the nectar, the juice of things that are happening. But what a wonderful full circle. That's awesome. I didn't know that. So I'm happy to know
oh
that
yeah,
story
yeah,
myself. Hmm.
yeah. In fact, I remember because I had always taught as a writer, I had taught in academic institutions mostly. I mean, I taught at Columbia, I taught at NYU, I taught at the New School. And I remember the first time I taught at Kripalu, I think I had about 30 people signed up. Now it's a couple hundred people, but it was 30 people. And I thought, I don't know what to do with 30 people. I know what to do with 10 people around a workshop table. That's the that's the sort of classic model for teaching a writing workshop. And
Hmm.
I certainly know how to do that, but I thought, what do I do with 30 people? We're not going to be reading each other's work. How do I do this? And I really I had a meditation practice, but I had never taught meditation. And I thought, do I have any, and so much of writing is about permission. So much of really doing anything that's making something out of nothing, something that didn't exist before, is about giving ourselves permission. And I didn't know if I don't think I felt that I had permission to lead meditation because I'm not a meditation teacher. And I was on the phone with Sylvia Boorstein. And I said, Sylvia, I'm thinking of maybe leading a little meditation. And Sylvia said, lead a lot of meditation. And that was also the beginning of weaving together. I mean, my meditation practice and my writing practice are so connected to each other. And that was the beginning of being able to weave together two practices that are very connected for me. I mean, when you're that feeling of going deeper and being a little bit afraid to go deeper or a little resistant to going deeper, but sitting there anyway
Mm,
is very much this just profound connection between meditation and writing. Because if you're sitting there meditating and you think, I'm hungry, I'm thirsty, I'm tired, I just had an idea I should write down, I wonder how long it's been, maybe my timer's broken. I mean, whatever the thing
yeah.
is that your monkey mind is doing, if you stop, you know you've stopped, right? You've gotten up. If you're looking into the refrigerator and, like, for a banana, you know that you've stopped meditating. If you're sitting at your desk and writing, you could actually still be sitting at your desk and appearing to be writing, but suddenly you're in the middle of a scene, you're writing, there's a moment that you're writing that you have resistance to and it's hard. So you decide, I'm going to research that thing, or I'm going to check my email, or I'm going to go on Instagram, or whatever it is. And you're still in the same exact position where from 10 feet away, it would look like you're still doing the same thing,
Mm,
but you've actually succumbed to your resistance. And it's always in a moment where one is about to be pierced more deeply.
mm,
And it's like the wave is coming, and allowing the wave to wash over you and not resist it is just so true in both practices. So
yeah.
I love being able to offer that.
Yeah, amazing. Tell us a little bit about your followers. Your audience may already know this, but we're so curious. I wanted to know just how you became a writer. I know that might be a very basic question, but we'd love to know. And then now with this element of your meditation practice and your writing practice, sort of how that also came together for you.
Yeah, it's been such a long and unexpected and extraordinary journey. I mean, I didn't grow up surrounded by writers. I didn't know that it was possible to be a writer. I was a huge reader from the time that I was little. I just read everything that I could get my hands on, but I did not make the connection that someone wrote these books and spent her life that way. And at a certain point, I think I realized that was possible for someone, but I didn't know that it was possible for me, or even, how would you do that? I grew up in suburban New Jersey in a sort of upper middle class family. My parents' friends were professionals they were attorneys and doctors and accountants and bankers, and I didn't know any writers. I didn't know any artists.
Mm,
Um, when I but I have more to say about that, actually. When I constantly was writing, scribbling, trying to make order out of the chaos, trying to make a shape out of something that felt shapeless. In retrospect, many years later, I now realize there was a lot that I didn't know, and I was trying to discover it. I was trying to find it
mm,
through the process of moving my pen across the page.
mm.
Um, when I went to college, in this great stroke of luck, I went to a school. No one from my high school had ever gone to this school. I mean, there was no path that was well was I was bushwhacking. There was nothing was kind of set up in front of me. But I went to Sarah Lawrence College, which is a school about a half an hour north of New York City. And because it's a half an hour north of New York City, there were a lot of writers there, professional writers, who also taught, who would come up from the city to Bronxville and Westchester to teach their classes. And among them was the great American short story writer Grace Paley. She was my teacher. Um, she was this like role model for and there were others, extraordinary writers and teachers who modeled. I mean, Grace was a writer and a teacher and a social activist and a mother, and I mean, sometimes, I mean, she really modeled social activism. Sometimes there would be a note on the classroom door saying, workshops canceled today, Grace is in jail.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, she was fighting the good fight, and there was this. It was a small school, and so there was just this warmth and this sense of possibility and community. But still, I did not feel like I had permission, like I could be a writer. And it really wasn't until I dropped out, I went back, I kind of made a mess of things. I had some personal family tragedies happen. And when I returned, it was my senior year, and I felt like I had a story to tell. And I started writing really seriously. And several people on the faculty said to me, you should stay and go to graduate school next year. And just there's the door, go through that door. And so I went through that door, and I spent 2 years at Sarah Lawrence getting a master's, and I wrote my first novel while I was there. And that was the beginning of my life as a novelist. And again, I was writing short stories because it's conventional wisdom in graduate school that you should write short stories because then you're hedging your bet. If one doesn't work, you can start another one. If you're investing that time and those resources, and at the end of it you have a novel that doesn't work, then the thinking would be, well, that's too risky.
Right.
But I guess I had an appetite for that kind of risk at that point, and I wrote my first novel, and it was published after I graduated, and then I just kept going, and by keeping going, I mean really sort of waiting for the next right thing um, to announce itself to me. I thought that I was going to write novels for the rest of my life, that I was a novelist and only a novelist, and I was going to keep writing novels. And then after a few novels, the story that I tried to tell in that first novel that I did tell, but not as fully as I wanted to, was still haunting me.
Mm.
So I wrote a memoir,
Hmm.
and that was my memoir, Slow Motion. And when Slow Motion came out, I thought, well, now I've written my memoir, and I'll go back to fiction and I'll continue being a novelist, which I did. But as it's turned out, in the fullness of time, I have written an equal number of fiction and nonfiction, of novels and memoirs. At this point, I mean, I'm working on my 12th book right now, and I think it's going to be 6 and 6 in terms of the genres that I work in. And I couldn't have imagined that. And I also couldn't have imagined my teaching life. There was a professor at Columbia who was a fan of my work, and he got me my first teaching job there. And I loved teaching, and I still love teaching. And then at a certain point, I decided to sort of expand and do that differently, and do it kind of in my own, like create my own pedagogy in a way. And that's what I've been doing for the last 10 years or so, is this kind of teaching that pulls in anything that I really want to pull into it, which is, um, kind of a thrilling, wonderful thing.
Yeah.
So
Mm.
yeah, I mean, it's been, also, I couldn't have imagined the gifts that a writing life would offer me. The
Mm.
people, you know, whether it's students or readers or fans or the other writers who I've become close with over the years all over the world. It's just such a rich tapestry. Um, and it's a way of moving through life
Mm.
maybe more awake, um, at least sometimes. Um, Maybe more of a witness. Um, there's a, and somebody once said that to be a writer is like having like one less layer of skin,
Mm.
to be any kind of artist, and to be a
Yeah.
sensitive person, but to have like one less layer of skin. And I think that's not always an easy way to go through life, but it's a really rich and meaningful way to go through life.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. So your program is called The Stories We Carry, and you have been speaking about memoir. And so how do folks who may not become career writers relate to the program? And I guess my question is, I've gone off script now. Um, how does one associate as a sort of maybe a lay woman, right? A regular person to the writing life or the gift of what's there?
Yeah. Oh, that's such a great question. I'm glad you went off script. Um, it's, I would say probably in the stories we carry, it's probably 50-50 in terms of people there who either are professional writers. I mean, professional writer always sounds like a weird phrase to me. Um, but for people who are doing that, as their profession, people who aspire to do that as their profession, and then people who are exploring. And it really is, I mean, in my book Still Writing, I write about this. It is the greatest tool for a kind of excavation that I know. It is the a way of seeing what's there when you move. I offer a writing prompt at this workshop where the first two words of every sentence that I ask people to write, and they don't share it with each other. It's a private prompt. Is the phrase "I remember,"
Mm,
and I dare anybody to begin a sentence with "I remember" and not finish the sentence.
right.
It's a provocation. It's a it's a prompt. I remember, I remember, I remember. And if you do that for 15 minutes, sitting there, I remember, finish the sentence, drop down a line. I remember, finish the sentence, drop down a line. You discover things.
Mm,
And one of the most radical discoveries in terms of creativity that I've made in my life is, as some people who know my work and some of my history know, um, I had written about secrets all my life as a writer. My novels are, centered around sort of family secrets and the corrosive power of what we don't know and how it acts upon us. And I found out in the middle of my life that I was the family secret, that my dad, the man who raised me, was not my father, biologically speaking, and that it was a secret that had been kept from me all my life. And my parents went to their graves keeping that secret.
oh my gosh.
Um, Now, these kinds of discoveries happen to a lot of people, or a fair number of people, and and when and of any kind of secret. But when they go back and try to reimagine and reframe their life up until that moment, um, often we don't have any evidence of what we actually believed or what we actually knew or what was
Mhm.
really kind of simmering underneath. But I had a shelf full of books that I had written. So I could go back and, I mean, it was not an easy thing to do. It took my breath away, but I could go back and reread my first novel that I wrote when I was 26 years old. And what I would see in those pages in black and white was I knew.
Mm,
I have 4, 5, 6, 7, no, more. Maybe 8 books that I wrote all before I knew about my dad. And whether it's my memoir devotion or it's still writing or it's slow motion, it's there on the page. So there's this phrase that I came upon when I was writing the memoir about my discovery, memoir called Inheritance. This phrase I discovered was coined by a psychoanalyst, and it was the unthought known. And I think that we all have a yearning, to touch what we can't think, to get at, what we, kind of a deeper knowing. And this kind of work does that. And the being in a safe space, and it's such a safe space. Um, it reaffirms my faith in humanity every time I teach at Kripalu, because you think, how can so many people all kind of come together as
mm,
one, sort of organism, as a group? When we break people up into small groups a couple of times over the course of the weekend.
yeah.
And when we do, I walk through the room, and what I am witnessing are people every single one of them, like leaning forward, intently listening. Some people are crying, some people are laughing, but everybody is so respectful and paying so much close attention. Um, and to me, that's just a sacred thing, and it's got nothing to do with whether somebody is going to be, the next, great American novelist. It has to do with this kind of yearning that I think so many of us have, and being able to address that yearning and being able to learn tools that are tools that they can take home with them to
Yeah.
continue those kinds of practices if they want to.
Yeah. Yeah. I am so glad I went off script as well, because you just gave so much permission to me, right? As someone who maybe would look and go, oh my gosh, it's Dani and this got it, because, you know, now that I understand, now that I heard what you said, when I look at the title, right? The stories we carry, I was receiving it as a story I'm already aware that I'm carrying, where you're also saying we're going to find it, we're going to excavate it. This is part of the magic and that unthought, the
The unthought
unthought
known.
known.
Exactly.
So I'm so glad that we were able to have that exchange, because it helps me understand, and have permission, that it might be something for folks who may not claim, to be a writer.
Yeah. Yeah,
um,
absolutely.
so good. Thank you for sharing also about your family, and being the secret after all of that. It must have just been outrageously like wow.
I remember telling one of my best friends, and she burst out laughing. And she said, "It's like you've been in training for this all your life,"
Mhm.
which really was that I would so have regretted not making that discovery.
Yeah.
If I just lived my whole life, I would have been slightly off the mark. Just
Mhm.
something I didn't know.
Yeah.
Um, and that was really life altering, but life altering too, really in terms of understanding the power of the unconscious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. You mentioned still writing. I know you have a treat for us, and you're going to do a little bit of a reading.
Oh, yeah.
So I think I'll have us jump there just for the sake of time. Yeah. So thank you.
Yeah.
Excited to hear.
Well, I was debating about which to read, but I think I'm going to read, given what we were talking about, this little chapter called Permission.
Okay. Awesome.
If you're waiting for the green light, the go ahead, the reassuring wand to tap your shoulder and anoint you as a writer, you'd better pull out your thermos and folding chair, because you're going to be waiting a good long while. Accountants go to business school, and when they graduate with their degrees, they don't ask themselves whether they have permission to do people's taxes. Lawyers pass the bar, medical students become doctors, academics become professors, all without considering whether or not they have a right to be going to work. But nothing and no one gives us permission to wake up and sit at home staring at a computer screen while everybody else sets their alarm clocks, puts on reasonable attire, and boards the train. No one is counting on us or waiting for what we produce. People look at us funny, very possibly because we look funny, strange and out of sync with the rest of the world, after spending our days alone in our bathrobes, talking only to our household pets, if at all. I can't imagine what my UPS delivery guy thinks when I crack open the door to sign for a package. There's that weird lady again.
Mm.
My husband, who has been a successful journalist and screenwriter for most of his adult life, was in his 40s before his father stopped asking him when he was going to get a real job. Sure, there are advanced degrees in writing and various signifiers that a career might be underway, but ultimately, a writer is someone who writes. And a writer who writes is one who finds a way to give herself permission. The advanced degree is useless in this regard. No writer I know wakes up in the morning and while brushing her teeth thinks, check me out, I have an MFA. Or for that matter, I've published a number of books, or even I've won the Pulitzer Prize. There is no magical place of arrival. There is only the solitary self facing the page. It's strange and challenging, glorious and devastating, this business of being a writer. Every day, a new indignity.
Mm.
Press many of us, including those you would think had moved beyond this, and you will discover that we can quote you the most painful passages from our worst reviews. We can give you a list of critics who are dismissive of our work. We'll tell you which judge on which academic committee blackballed us. On some mornings, these rejections, reviews, enemies seem to stand between us and our work like a mutant army. Who are you to give yourself permission to write? They seem to shout. We writers are a thin-skinned, anxious lot and often feel like we're getting away with something, that we're going to be revealed at any moment as the frauds we really are.
Mm.
Whether you are a writer just mustering up the nerve to go to your first weekend workshop, or filling out your MFA applications, or one gazing moodily out from a big poster in the window of your local Barnes & Noble, you are far from alone in this business of granting yourself the permission to do your work. Masters of the form quake before the page. They often feel hopeless and despairing. They may also fall prey to petty musings. They have days in which they simply can't get out of their own way. But when we give ourselves permission, we move past this. The world once again reveals itself to us. We become open and aware, patient and ready to receive it. We don't ask why that particular slant of sunlight, snippet of dialogue, old couple walking along the road hand in hand seems to evoke an entire world. We give ourselves permission because we are the only ones who can do so. There's a great expression in 12-step programs. Act as if. Act as if you're a writer. Sit down and begin. Act as if you might just create something beautiful, and by beautiful, I mean something authentic and universal. Don't wait for anybody to tell you it's okay. Take that shimmer and show us our humanity. That's your job.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I can't think of anything more perfect, a more perfect ending than that excerpt. Dani will be with us the 12th to the 14th on campus and online for those who may not be able to travel. We just touched on a little bit of the magic that'll be poured that weekend. I can't even imagine how deep you guys are going to be able to go over that weekend together. Is there anything else you'd like to share, Dani, before we wrap up?
I think really just the hopes that anyone who has just even a little inkling of a feeling listening to this, like, okay, well, maybe I'll give that a shot, or I'm too nervous to give that a shot, or what's it going to be like being with all of these other people, these strangers I don't know, or carving out the time for myself. It really is, and I'm not saying this because it's my program, it just really is a magical experience. And I think that um, the the feeling of just giving, like, just that little push, that the push that I made all those years ago when I went to Stephen and Sylvia's workshop. I so easily could have not gone. It just felt so daunting. And to me, it's so funny now looking back and thinking that was daunting because it changed my life. And I think that these kinds of moments, whether they are professionally motivated or just completely personally motivated, can really be, in some very tiny way, create a shift that can be life-changing.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing your gifts.
Thanks, Ava. So good to see you.
Yeah, and I'll
Thanks.
be on campus. I'll be with you actually when
Oh,
you're on campus. So
I'm
I'll
so glad.
to
I'm so
seeing you in
glad.
person. Thank you, everyone. Have a beautiful rest of your day. And thank you again, Dani. We appreciate you so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay, bye-bye.